Sekeres Price for Thursday, April 11th, 2024. Coming to you from the Go-Goat Sports Studio, built by Arbor Lee here at the iconic Wall Center, downtown Vancouver. And if you're looking for a staycation, we got Sekeres Price rates available. Call the Wall 604-331-1000. Based on availability, some blackout dates apply. Matt Sekeres alongside Blake Price. Grace Ass Hit and Switch is conducting things this show. Presentation, Applewood Auto Group.
If you go to Applewood Nissan in Surrey, I could maybe finally get myself into a Pathfinder. Didn't you say you had a Pathfinder when you were a young driver?
No. I had another SUV, but I always wanted a Pathfinder.
Yeah, so did I.
I was jealous of the Pathfinder. The Pathfinder was a step up from the SUV that
now's the time to get behind the wheel of a Pathfinder. Lease one from 3.99% for 24 months. Finance it at 3.99% for up to 36 months. It's all at Applewood Nissan in Surrey. It's all good at Applewood.
Poll question today. We are asking you, does it matter to you if the Canucks win the division? Yes or no? You can vote at Sekeres Price on Twitter and YouTube. And it sounds like Blake and I are going to have a debate on this because I saw your tweet.
Mm-hmm.
I voted yes. I voted yes because the Vancouver Canucks have not won a division in 11 years. I voted yes because to finish ahead of the defending Stanley Cup champion, and it pays me to say that, Vegas Golden Knights, and the Edmonton Oilers, with arguably the two best offensive players in the world. Although, can we retire that phrase? Has McKinnon not gone past Draisaitl?
Yeah.
Okay. So the best player in the world and another guy who is year in, year out amongst the best offensive players in the world. Winning the division is the only pathway to the Nashville Predators. And then I saw you tweet something about how there's no practical advantage. But of course, there would be home ice advantage in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Didn't read the tweet fully. Didn't read the tweet.
Well, please edify me, Blake, then.
I said,
please let me know what I'm missing.
For most people, and we've already polled on this, and that was the result, people would call an appearance in the second round a success for this season. That winning a round after all this team has been through over the last long while.
Agreed.
So for the purpose of achieving that goal, there's no practical win.
But that's not
they get home ice advantage regardless if they're first or second.
I hear you, but that's not the end of the story. That's not the end of the season.
No, I know.
The end of the goal. There's a continuation.
But with that context put in,
but
if you make it to the second round as a success, to achieve that success,
but my problem is you're putting a finality to that context where none exists. You would have home ice advantage in the second round if you won the division.
Yeah. But I don't know that the expectation is, no matter if they have home ice or not, that they're going to win that series.
I'm with you with regards to the conference, that, it's not really all that meaningful to finish ahead of the Dallas Stars and win the conference, although the same logic applies in terms of achievement. But of course, that's getting through two rounds. And as we have long said on this program, you make the NHL conference finals unless you're a defending Stanley Cup champion, a team that's played in multiple finals and has not yet lifted the chalice. That is a fantastic season. Very few teams can lose in the conference final and say that was a failure of a season.
So the other part of my answer, though, is this. Of all the teams that the Vancouver Canucks, over the past third of the season, that they were theoretically potential opponents for in the first round, the two hottest teams available that they could have faced in the final third of the season are the Edmonton Oilers, who eventually won so much they became a non-opponent because they rose up to second, and the Nashville Predators. Nobody else has been as hot in the final third of the season as the Nashville Predators and the Edmonton Oilers. So taking the Nashville Predators out of the equation by slipping to second place, to me, not a huge deal. I do not regard. There are pluses and minuses. There are reasons for the pluses and minuses, pros and cons of facing the Kings, facing Vegas, facing the Nashville Predators. Each of them poses different challenges and different advantages for the Vancouver Canucks as first-round opponents. I don't distinguish anything but incremental differences once the final scores have been tallied between those three teams.
I once covered Curtis Joseph, the NHL All-Star goaltender, had a sublime career, near Hall of Fame career, St. Louis, Edmonton, Toronto, others. And we would go to him with questions about Cujo. You guys have really struggled on the penalty kill of late, giving up 8 goals in the last 20 opportunities. What do you think's gone so wrong? And he would look at us and go, well, guys, we may have given up 8 goals in the last 20 opportunities, but if you extend that to the last 55 opportunities, we've actually only given up 10 goals, and that's pretty good. He would always sort of quibble with the premise in terms of where we drew the line when talking about hot or cold streaks.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of applies with the Nashville Predators here, does it not? They've lost 5 of their last 7. And in fact, in a couple of those games, gave up 8 and 7 goals. I don't dispute that Nashville has been one of the best teams in the second half. That much is absolutely true. 18-game point streak. And I don't dispute that the Canucks victories against Nashville came earlier in the season prior to Nashville going on that long point streak. But Vancouver is 3-0 against the Predators this year. They are a combined 2-5 against LA and Vegas. In fact, maybe even worse than that.
Well, they're 3-0 versus the Oilers too. Do you want to face the Oilers in the first round? Sure. If you apply, they could consider it.
And I draw a distinction between the Oilers and the Predators.
And to some degree,
if that's wrong, hey.
To some degree, I get why you would. Any team with Connor McDavid is a force to be reckoned with. There's a Norris Trophy candidate on the Preds. There's a Vezina Trophy candidate on the Preds.
Yeah, but it is not they are not a particularly good offensive team. And look, I have changed minds. I think even on Monday, I said, it almost matters to me less who they play so long as the Canucks get their house in order, which continues to be the case. I stand by that. But I have reflected and believed that is incomplete. That no, in fact, there are differences in your potential first-round opponents. And I have settled on the fact that I think Nashville is the best one for Vancouver. Because as much as the goaltender is superb, and UC Saros is superb, as we have long said on this program, it's not necessarily about who's got the resume goaltender in the playoffs. It's about who's got the hot goaltender in the playoffs. Eden Hill for Vegas last year. Sergei Bobrovsky. And go on and on.
Cam Ward.
Yarrow Halak. You can go through a whole... who was it in Dallas several years ago in the bubble?
Anton Khudobin.
Right. Who took them to the cup final, right? So, yeah, Saros on his game would be scary. No doubt. And scarier than, I suspect, a Kings goaltender or even a Vegas goaltender.
These are not your father's Nashville Predators, man. They score goals in bunches. They are right behind the Canucks in offense this season.
A lot of shots.
They are top 3rd in the NHL in scoring.
Do they have difference makers, Blake?
Yeah,
offensively.
Philip Forsberg is an elite player. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if the season's 5 games longer, he gets 100 points. I mean, he's right there, 89 points. I mean, he's having quite a year.
Yeah.
And they've got
Canuck Anthony Beauvillier is in their top 9.
Yeah, way down in terms of their contributors, and they've got an it guy and Ryan O'Reilly. You just never know what you're going to get in the playoffs out of a guy like Ryan O'Reilly.
But it's that next wave. Does Thomas Novak, Evangelista?
That's it.
Those guys
so
scare you.
If you wanted to tell me they're a good offensive team, I would say to you they have the ability to construct a terrific offensive line with Forsberg, O'Reilly, and Nyquist. I don't necessarily fear the offense from that point forward. And so I think that makes it easier for the Vancouver Canucks and this coaching staff to line match against a Nashville top line and feel pretty good about, despite the struggles of the Vancouver Wingers, feel pretty good about your bottom nine versus their bottom nine.
Do the LA Kings have a better attack than the Nashville Predators?
No, I think their attack is even worse.
Yeah.
But the difference there is that the Kings have clearly befuddled the Vancouver Canucks with that 1-3-1 system they play. Vancouver has not looked very good against LA and that awful, terrible, passive, trapping 1-3-1.
And is that real or is it an outlier? Like how do the Anaheim Ducks go in and get a 3-1 win over the Kings?
Well, I think the Anaheim Ducks, it's a geographic rivalry for them. Their little brother there. They don't have much else to play for. They've got some young offensive talent, and on any given night, and we are talking about a night in that example, these things happen.
But it's the playoffs.
In a best of 7 series, it's a little bit different. You've got to beat the other guy 4 times. So, it tends to let the cream rise. Look, we all know there are upsets in the Stanley Cup playoffs. There's great parity across this league. It's not just because of the 3-point games. This is a league that traditionally has seen 7 and 8 seeds be very competitive, comparatively speaking, to the NBA versus the top seeds. So I allow for the fact that anything can happen in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I also allow for the fact, and if I'm being intellectually honest, there are teams that I think you have a better chance of beating. Heck, Brian Burke said this to us on Monday, Tuesday. He said they'll never tell you, but there's absolutely guys in every playoff-bound organization that's going, oh, I hope we get that team as opposed to this team for whatever reasons. So,
but that's the thing. I think you can make those arguments willy-nilly and in every direction. Like I just don't think there's any discerning. Can any team bite the Vancouver? The Canucks should be able to beat the Preds and the Kings easily. Well, they really should.
They really should. But
based on resume, they should have the toughest time with the Vegas Golden Knights. And look at them. They ended up having some good results against the Knights this year.
Well,
now they've still not faced a fully healthy Golden Knights, if that will ever exist.
They had one result.
Well, they beat them a couple times.
They have 2 wins against Vegas?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Canucks? Yeah. 2-2.
Right.
But they still haven't faced a fully healthy Golden Knights team, and nor has anybody else for that matter.
But so the loss is why you probably think that, Matt, were very loud, right?
Right. Like a 3-1 win on March 7th, my bad, and a 4-3 win on April 8th. Lost 6-3 in between those, of course, got annihilated in that first game 4-1. And frankly, that was flattering to the Canucks. So let me amend. They're 3-5 against the Kings and the Golden Knights this season. No, I'm on no part of Vegas because of what they have just dropped into their lineup and Tomas Hertl and what they're likely to drop into their lineup in game 1. And, to watch the Stanley Cup playoffs last year, Mark Stone was a beast. And who knows if he's 100% healthy or not. But you're playing a team that, for my money, just puts a whole lot more talent on the ice than does LA or Nashville.
Vegas wins their game in hand on Nashville. They're 1 point back of the Preds with 3 games to go. So they could end up as that top wildcard team and all of a sudden the Canucks are still facing the Golden Knights even as the division winners.
But the other thing I think, if we're going to talk about Edmonton form, if we're going to talk about Nashville form, and even the form within the form, depending on where you want to draw the line, do we not have to talk about Canucks form? Like you say, they should be able to beat LA and Nashville, and I agree. But they haven't been very good since the All-Star break. We're more than 2 months now with the Vancouver Canucks being really middling. Yep. And when you go even a little deeper there, what you'll find is a lot of wins against non-playoff teams and more of a struggle against better teams above the bar, right?
Goaltending's a hell of a drug. They put it on social media. Like, I mean, how many of the losses? The Dallas loss, the Kings loss, the Washington loss, close 1-goal games, Colorado in overtime, and not to take anything away from Casey DeSmith, he wasn't terrible in any of those games. But is Demko a better goaltender than Casey DeSmith? He just flat out is.
Mm-hmm.
They get more points out of those 4 games alone that I just mentioned. Never mind drubbings at the hands of Vegas and LA. There's at least 3 more points on the table there for the Vancouver Canucks, if not 5, if not 6 or 7.
So since the All-Star break, they have 7 wins against playoff teams, and that's a Big Tent playoff win because I'm including both Detroit and Washington. Vegas twice, LA, Boston, Winnipeg, and Carolina once.
Mm-hmm.
Every other win since the All-Star break has been against an also-ran.
Do you know what they're saying in Edmonton?
What?
Since the All-Star break, we haven't won against any of the big guns in the NHL playoffs. All we were doing is picking off the Lord. They're saying the same thing.
Are they really?
Yep. Yep.
I haven't investigated the Edmonton schedule that closely, or at least the results that closely.
They, up until the game, I think they beat Colorado 5 days ago, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was the narrative going in. When are they going to win a big game?
Right. So why don't we do this before I ask you about their goaltending? 4-point lead on the Oilers after the events of Wednesday night. Edmonton, of course, with the 2 games in hand. They play Friday against the Arizona Coyotes before hosting the Vancouver Canucks in this Saturday night showdown. So even if Edmonton wins these 2 games, beats Arizona, then goes on and beats the Canucks, that draws them even in points, but the Canucks hold the tiebreaker, which means they would need to get a point up in the final
3 for them.
3 for them,
yeah.
2 for Vancouver.
So again, even if the worst case scenario happens over Friday and Saturday, Canucks are still in charge of their own fate. Mm-hmm. They win their 2 games, they're still in.
So you mentioned goaltending and the drug that it is and the difference there is. Are we worried about Canucks goaltending right now?
I'll say no because I think Thatcher Demko's playing on Saturday.
Okay. And you think he's on form, just everything is fine. He doesn't need a lot of time to round back into the all-star goalie that we saw earlier this season.
I mean, it's all on a grade, but I think Thatcher Demko at 89% is still going to be better than the other 2 guys at 100.
Yeah. I'm starting to get a little worried about their goaltending.
Like for the playoffs, you mean?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, just because I think there's an assumption out there that everything's just going to be tickety-boo when Thatcher returns.
Yep.
And I'm not necessarily sure that is a fair expectation.
Well,
like because right now you have very little margin for error. You don't really have time for him to, have a waffle here.
Find his game.
You have very little time for that. At most, he's going to play 3 regular season games the rest of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Is that enough to be ready for the playoffs? Well, okay. Yeah. Based on what people say about preseason. But
is it enough for him to get into form?
Particularly if you play Vegas, I think you need him to be like pinpoint. I think you need him to be millimeter perfect, 100% sharp, the best that he can be.
So you've chronicled the Canucks' inability to be playoff teams. Demko's last 3 games before he got hurt. Wins over LA, Vegas, and Winnipeg. Allowing in those 3 games 2 goals.
Right.
He was in
and that was the last good stretch of hockey they've played, Blake.
Yeah.
That 4-game winning streak.
So it indicates
you can say the 3-game winning streak during the homestand, but that was Buffalo, Montreal, Calgary.
So that indicates a difference maker that he is.
Yes.
And I would suspect that the 2 to 3 games that he's going to play is going to be more than ample to get him ready for game number 1.
And see, to me, that's where we differ a little bit. That I think that's the bare minimum. I think
it's only been a month.
And I think everybody is just, and part of it is wishful thinking, just believing, okay, so long as he gets the bare minimum of 2 or 3 games, he's ready to go for the playoffs. I don't think people are considering enough what you just outlined, an 85% Thatcher Demko, which is still really good, but maybe not enough in the first round against a good opponent.
But 3 months is different than 1 month. Like 1 month is, to me, is just not that long an absence. Like he hasn't been gone since December 1st here. You know, then you've got a real good case for what you're talking about. I mean, we're talking about a guy that played into mid-March, March 9th. You know, he's getting a 5-0 shutout win over the Winnipeg Jets. That's not that long ago.
Well,
post-trade deadline.
Smith came in and
yeah. So
finished that game off. But yes, he was good until he left the Creeks.
And the team was playing some of their best defensive hockey in front of them.
They still are absolutely right.
And they're all
absolutely right.
Very disciplined.
They're still playing good defensive.
They've been more
hockey.
disciplined lately than they were back then. They've been allowing fewer shots now than they are back then.
Well, except they have 6 goals to Vegas, 6 goals to LA, 4 goals to Arizona.
But that's all save percentage, man. Look at the shots.
Think that's all goaltending?
Look at they didn't crest what 16
you're
shots
talking
in
volume
regulation?
of shots, or we're talking quality of shots.
Well,
you're looking at volume.
Both.
Okay.
I mean, they got 18 shots in an overtime game last night.
Okay, so
with a power
I
play
stand to be corrected if you do the analytics on the quality of the shot quality and all that. To my eye, watching them, the shots may be down, but I think they're giving up better quality opportunities.
Well, the expected goals against the Kings was sub-2, and what they ended up allowing 6.
What was it against Vegas when they scored 6?
Coyotes
probably much higher.
And then also look at the low-scoring games and what were the expected goals on those nights too.
It all balances out.
All situations last night was 1.78, and they get 4.
Mm-hmm.
In all situations, never mind even strength, but all situations 1.7, they get 4.
So what I'm saying is, while they're playing good defensive hockey, they're not playing peak defensive hockey. While they're decent right now offensively, and maybe even that's a stretch, they're certainly not playing peak offensive hockey compared to what we saw early in the season.
No, that's clear.
They're filling up nets.
No.
Are we feeling great about the power play?
At times, when it's good, it's good.
Right, but not consistent enough.
Looked great against Vegas.
Yeah. And we'll hear from Coach Tocchet here about his frustration with what happened on the power play against the Coyotes. Do we feel great about the penalty kill?
Nope.
You know, I honestly, I don't think we can say we feel great about either special teams unit, about the way the offense is clicking, or even about the totality of defense versus their best, which, you know, granted is exceptional. So I put all that together, and
the kills were great last night, though.
Yeah. Okay.
And they had some big kills last night, and they ultimately did kill off that power play in overtime. It's a second later.
But yeah, Vegas scored 2 on the power play earlier this week. Was that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't see any part of their game right now that is at optimum. And that would worry me because, frankly, I think the record is a little bit flattering to the Canucks. You know, they had unique circumstances this season. They had a new head coach, but not really a new head coach, a head coach who basically ran a training camp for the last third of last season and challenged them all to be better from the jump, knowing full well they didn't have the luxury of being able to bleed points and lose games and fall behind the playoff pack as they had the previous years. They came out guns a-blazing. They came out adopting and adhering to everything that Tocchet and the coaching staff had been preaching, and they saw the results, and they were sensational. But how many times, Blake, did we sit there after another win and go, pinch me? Is this really the Vancouver Canucks? Are they really this good? And I think the second half of the season has proven no, actually, they're not.
But there's
that good.
But
they're good, but they're not top of the league Stanley Cup contender good.
No, but I think we all kept our feet on the ground in that regard all season long. I don't think anybody was saying, hey, listen, the parade's going down this way.
Well, there was a time there at the All-Star break where I think there was a lot of fans and media as well. Everybody was culpable.
I think
daring to dream. And
no, I think what adjusted it was that people became they've certainly changed where the bar goes, but I don't think it went 4 rounds deep. All of a sudden it said, holy, this team should be able to win a playoff series. And I still think that's the case, Matt. I mean, I think
for sure.
The problems with offense, as we saw last night, they're caught in a rut. They've got a brain freeze on about what they want to do with the puck when they get it. The Canucks still own possession of the puck. If we had a soccer stat last night, my God, it would have been 80% possession for the Vancouver Canucks. It's what they do, and they've got a brain block right now on taking the puck to the net and creating shots that don't originate from the point every time or from defensemen every time. Like they just default because they've got pretty good defensemen back there that can control the puck and hold the blue line pretty well, and they just are leaning on that crutch so much instead of waiting that second and taking it to the net themselves.
But this goes back a couple of weeks. Like you remember the week where JT Miller and Quinn Hughes were talking about getting inside.
Yeah,
like, they're just not getting. And
well, they did that against Vegas,
right?
And it worked. Look at all the point shots and the screens they had in front on a bunch of those goals.
Getting inside needs to be a lifestyle.
Yeah,
not a visit occasionally. And
hopefully they practice these 2 days in a row, though.
And that's what I'm saying. Like that's a fatal flaw in the postseason. If you're not getting inside and getting those scoring chances in and around the net where most goals are going to come from. And you're right. Like the point shot with traffic and a rebound, it's a good play, but it's not enough.
It can't be
your only arrow.
But you got multiple days to practice here. They've got practice time versus the Oilers who do not, by the way. And you got 3 games to work on what you've had in practice. And this is a good little preseason for the postseason, if you will, for the Vancouver Canucks to cure what ails them.
And Blake, if they look sensational in these 3 games and go riding in the playoffs in a hot streak, I am happy to sort of tailor my opinion. What I see now is a team that could, and depending on opponent, should win a first round playoff series. I'd be awfully surprised if it goes further than that.
I've always been surprised if that goes past
I know
that.
you have been.
Yeah.
I know you have been. Well, let's get into our top story, and as mentioned, what we're going to hear from Coach Tocchet here in a second. But another game slips away for the Vancouver Canucks. 4-3 overtime loss, and it's brought to you by Douglas, our top story.
Mattresses, of course.
Right.
Yes.
4-3 overtime loss to the Arizona Coyotes. Connor Garland is good again. JT Miller is good again. Elias Pettersson finally unleashes one of those snipes. They erase a 2-goal third period deficit. Rogers Arena is rocking. We get into the overtime. They take a penalty, and it's game over. Hell of a night for Dylan Guenther. He who would have been a Vancouver Canuck with the 9th overall pick in the draft a couple of years ago, if not for the OEL Connor Garland trade. Garland's made that trade look a little better of late. And yet Guenther seems to play pretty well against the Vancouver Canucks.
And should for the next 10 to 12 years with that franchise.
Yeah. Wherever they may be.
Yes.
So, look, Archer Seeloffs had won his 3 games this year. He had looked good in 8 NHL games over 2 seasons up until last night. I don't necessarily feel like Archer Seeloffs gave you the best chance to win last night.
No, he's been giving you replacement level goaltending, not AHL goaltending.
Yep.
But replacement level NHL goaltending.
You overcame a miscue or 2 from Seeloffs against Vegas. It was a little too much to ask this team to get over.
Not a condemnation of the player.
Certainly not.
Him as a prospect, he is 23 years of age. The guy across the crease who feels like an up-and-comer, Connor Ingram, he's 27, folks.
And I would not be at all surprised if Artur Silovs is the backup next year. And a quality backup who's on a Thatcher Demko trajectory, where he makes the most of the opportunities he gets and then rounds into form of being an NHL starter. Would not surprise me in the least. But there have been some leaky goals this week. Here's the head coach and what he thought about his goaltender.
Yeah, I think he was fine. You know, lost a couple there. I think he was trying to look over the shoulder that somebody in front. So I think Clarkey said something about in those situations, I guess you got to stay low. That's your only chance. But you know, that's goalie terminology stuff. That's for Clarkey to do. But yeah, I think he was fine.
Talk it using fine the way my girlfriend uses fine, the 4-letter word beginning with F.
I mean, it's a hard thing to point out.
He's not gonna sewer the young backup goaltender. That much we knew.
I actually think it was the textbook definition of fine. So
sorry, the non-toned, dictionary definition, flatly
adequate.
Fine.
Yeah, he didn't cause us to lose. He didn't win us the game. We were.
I heard, no, everything's fine.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. Weird.
Do you never get fined?
Never. All the time. 5 times a night.
If I was your girlfriend, you get a lot of fine. You get a lot of fine. Yeah.
Tocchet was also bemoaning the power play. He needs to see more movement. Take a listen.
2 power plays were slow, holding on to pucks, and then finally PD decides to shoot, it goes in the net. So maybe there's a lesson there. Just shoot the puck and play fast, pass the puck or move your feet. You know, when you start setting up and slowing it down, the PKs are too good nowadays. There's too many good PK coaches, and you got to move the puck or you got to move your feet to change your angle to make a pass, and then you attack. Most of the goals are 3 at the net. So, you know, that's really what it comes down to.
I can't remember if it was in even strength or a third period power play, but there was a sequence where JT Miller had it on the right point. He started doing a big circle at the blue line, along the blue line. Quinn Hughes comes in behind him and they exchange the puck. And it was movement. And you could almost sense the Coyotes going, holy shit, what's going to happen here? Because the 2 best players in the Vancouver Canucks were moving.
Yes.
And it looked like they had a plan.
Right. You forced anxiety on the opponent.
Yeah. And it's just like, do that.
And I think that's what coach is saying.
Yeah.
Like, when we play slow, when we're looking for the perfect play and not at speed, we generate no anxiousness on the part of the opponent.
And one of the reasons why that power play was successful against Vegas is because they went away from the 1-3-1. They had 2 guys right at the net front. So you have 3 guys across. They kind of get a little stationary at times, and it becomes a little more predictable. What do we always talk about? The best power plays are the ones you can't predict. Well, and when you're moving around, you're moving your feet, you're moving the puck.
You got to be malleable. These are, I mean, you want to play within your system according to your coach, but you're also elite players, like especially guys like Miller and like guys like Bluger, just do your job as coach told you. Guys like Miller and Hughes should be allowed and should in their own mind know I can kind of do whatever I want.
Right.
You know, I'm skilled enough. You know, there's a few guys out there that should have carte blanche to be as creative as they need to be offensively. And it just seems like right now they are just so abiding by system that it's handcuffing them a little bit. And the coach even makes reference to that, like about the point shot thing. Like, yeah, we talked about it way back because he wanted to see more of it at one point in the season, but now it's become everything to them.
Elias Lindholm made his return to the Vancouver Canucks lineup. He had missed the previous 7 games. He throws 3 shots on goal, finishes -2. Throws a hit, plays 18.5 minutes, wins 50% of his faceoffs. We're going to hear from him in a second, but
just, I mean, I to the eye, I thought he looked good.
PDG and Mikheyev,
yeah,
as the wingers.
Yeah, the pass on the 2-on-1 wasn't in the perfect spot, but good on Lindholm for finding a way to get the shot off.
Right.
But He played hard. I thought he was his intensity was in the right place.
But we're firmly in third line center territory here with Lindholm in his return.
Yeah, well,
a whole lot would have
to,
a whole lot would have to change for Lindholm to be anything more than a third line center and maybe a power play contributor, certainly a penalty kill contributor. In what's left of the season and the postseason. Do you think they regret the trade?
Well, it was 2020 hindsight, sure. I mean, I've never really scouted Lindholm a ton, but like before the trade, wasn't a huge Hurricanes fan, so I didn't watch him a ton there. And the glimpses we got as a Flame, I never really regarded him one way or the other. I don't know that I know what vintage Lindholm looks like. Like what is the skill that he does amazing? Like he's a smart player, I think.
And Blake, I think that might be it. That there isn't one. That he's sort of a master of all trades or a jack of all trades master.
And at times was very good at being,
And when you're playing with Gaudreau and Tkachuk, he can fill up a stat sheet.
Net front finisher in the slot.
Yeah, that would probably be it.
With two
that would
exceptional
probably be
playmakers, right?
That's a crowded category in the National Hockey League.
That is a very crowded category. Now, in conjunction with being a good 200-foot center, that's a nice profile.
Yeah. But he may have lost his step
But he's
a little
not
bit.
really a creator for others.
Out of regression. Sure.
He's not really a get in the half court and create for others type of guy.
Doesn't drive a line by himself.
No.
Which is why I suggest you put him with Elias Pettersson.
Let's hear from Lindholm. He said the team last night lacked intensity.
Yeah, obviously the way we played today wasn't playoff hockey and wasn't good enough, and obviously we have 3 more games here to put ourselves in a good spot and feel good about our game and get some confidence. So obviously we're gonna play some good teams, so it's gonna be a good stretch here for us.
I'll say this: every time I hear him interviewed, he sounds like a conscientious NHL veteran who understands and knows he's in a Canadian market, has to cop to certain things about the team, about his own game, but also has good messaging that I'm sure echoes the coaching staff and is probably instructive to the room. And I think he's right there. And frankly, I think Tocchet sort of forecasted this a little bit earlier in the week when he talked to, in the aftermath of the Vegas win, which, look, you finally beat a playoff team. You moved a step closer to winning the division. All these milestones that were going on, the fans chanting Connor Garland's name. I think Tocchet looked around and went, let's hope we're not too big for our britches against Arizona. That's almost the worst opponent to be coming on the heels of a game like that, because it does feel like a letdown, right? You're talking about the saddest sack franchise in the National Hockey League, not the worst team, but the franchise that almost, drags you down and makes you feel like you're playing semi-pro or AHL hockey.
I am surprised
and so to hear Lindholm, I think Lindholm characterized the game accurately. And I also think he's absolutely right that, look, you've got 3 opportunities now to, as you've been talking about, fine tune. And now it's a matter of, these aren't luxuries, they're more necessities in terms of that fine tuning.
See, I would disagree with how he characterized the game. And I thought Rick Tocchet was a little bit more accurate in this, in that it wasn't about intensity. I mean, last night, the first and the third periods, they came at them in waves.
Okay.
Whoa. They won puck battles along the boards almost every time they wanted to. They got a couple of bad calls that stalled some of the momentum at times. But they came at them in waves. The shot share, the scoring chances, like it's at 75% for the game for the Vancouver Canucks.
But don't look at the percent. Look at the total.
There
was one point in the third period where Ferraro said only 27 shots in what has been really a sleepy, dozy kind of night. I agreed with Ray.
The shot attempts were crazy.
A low events snoozer.
The Canucks were almost 3-1 shot attempts. Like, I mean, they had
but shot attempts, not just shot attempts versus the opponent, Blake, but shot attempts vis-a-vis other nights. Where were they?
I mean,
But that's the test.
Yeah, it was
It's not, did you carry play last night? Yes, of course they carried play last night.
no, but we're talking about the
We're
comments
talking about the intensity.
Yeah.
Right. So, but there were large swaths of the game where almost nothing was happening.
I don't know. I didn't see that game.
Okay.
I thought the
All
first and the third game, the first and the third periods were very good. I thought they struggled to find good shooting opportunities, as we talked about. And to me, that's the thing, is making better decisions. That the intensity is there, but they're not making the right decisions on what to do when they've got the puck.
I mean, I guess I would just differ that, when you take a full period, 33% of the game out of it, to me, it's a significant portion of the game where not a whole lot is going on.
I think every team would say that, though, on every night. Very few nights does a team walk away going, we play 60 minutes tonight. Like, that's always the goal, right? They always want to play 60 minutes.
And that's where shot quality over quantity has to come in sometimes.
Right.
Throwing pucks on net, if you don't have traffic, you don't have guys going to those greasy areas.
Yeah.
If they're up to, how many shots were thrown at the net, they're just missed.
Right.
You got to get them low. You got to get them hard. You got to have guys crashing the net.
Decision making, to me, again, that's why I wouldn't use the word intensity. That's a poor choice. Like, make a better decision on what to do with the puck. But they've had the puck, and the idea is to have the puck.
The Canucks averaged 28.5 shots per night. That's 26 in the National Hockey League. Last night they were at 26. And I know that's on goal, and you want to talk to me about attempts, and that's fair. That's part of the picture here as well. But the Canucks put 26 pucks on the net, and Arizona put 18. So we had 44 total shots on goal. That's not a lot in an NHL game.
And that's where you saw at the start of the year is when that PDO number was so high, is because they were putting a lot of quality opportunities on.
It still wasn't volume. Grady, they have not been a big shots on goal team all season. It's what made the first half extraordinary, and why everyone was talking about regression, and rightfully so, as it turns out. Is because if you're going to put so few pucks on net, comparatively speaking, to your peers on an average NHL night, then over the long period of time in a big sample, you're not going to score as many goals.
So last night,
we've seen that.
So last night they had 75 shot attempts.
Mm-hmm.
The previous night in a 4-3 win over the Vegas Golden Knights.
Fewer?
45.
Only 40?
Sorry, 54. 54.
Okay. All right.
So
it's a big night on shot attempts. Just
so you've got the puck.
Not a whole lot got to the goal.
You've won the puck. You've got the puck.
Yeah.
Do something better with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. How about this? Saw this tweet earlier with regards to everything that's going on with the Arizona Coyotes, maybe soon to be the Utah Grizzlies.
Grizz.
Well,
did you see something on that?
I heard from a friend last night who's connected in some hockey circles, who says the Coyotes players have been told, it would not be the worst idea to start looking for lodging in Salt Lake City, and that patriating the Grizzlies name, which has been a part of minor league hockey in Salt Lake City, is part of the plan here. I think it's kind of like, you do the name the team contest and you try and sort of steer people towards Grizzlies. And I'm not sure if is it going to be, are they going to disclose voting on that? I don't know. But anyways, maybe it's not Utah Grizzlies, but I think we're moving closer to a world where the Arizona Coyotes are in Salt Lake City. And look, clearly the way the club's communications department handled the game last night, they've got something to hide, because they brought one player out, had Arizona TV ask him questions solely on the game, and then whisked him away before head coach Andre Tourigny spoke. But I wanted to bring this up because you're an old Jets fan. Shane Doan debuts with the Winnipeg Jets during the 95-96 season, only for them to relocate the next year to Phoenix, and goes on to be Mr. Phoenix / Arizona Coyote, right?
Mm-hmm.
How about Josh Doan? He has made his debut for the Arizona Phoenix.
So you're right.
Coyotes.
Identical.
And poor Josh Doan may be on to a different city next year.
I hadn't put that part together. That's good.
Right.
The other thing that's coming out with all this, Gord Miller and Sarah Siv are doing some reporting on this, is that some of the players might start to quibble with the fact that Arizona was not on a no-trade list, but for political reasons, may want to put Salt Lake on their no-trade lists.
Yeah.
as a place that they don't want to live.
Mhm.
So that's going to be interesting to see. And if Arizona was moving anywhere else, almost, well, not even. If they were going to Oklahoma, if they're going to share an arena with Oklahoma City,
yeah,
I mean they might have a problem with that too.
Couple of things here. Number one, we are deep down the rabbit hole of first world problems when we're worrying about millionaires and their trade protection.
But you could say, why doesn't said player just play for $6 million instead of $10 million? Those are the rights that they are afforded by being the people that they are.
Understandable, but there's a little bit of wah-wah to this. Number two, and we know the Dadanoff miscue with the Ottawa Senators and Anaheim and Vegas and the way that schmozzle went down. But here's where the National Hockey League, its member clubs, and the union could benefit from a little transparency. Because we have heard in the past of teams going to players to ask for the no trade list. Oh, we've got a trade consummated. Who's the no trade list? So is the no trade list a legal, inflexible document that you submit at the beginning of the year or upon the signing of the contract? And that's the list?
It's
Can the player
refreshed.
change the list?
It's usually refreshed.
So then why can't they just change the list? Saying, now the Coyotes are on.
Because as far as I understand, again, you're right. There's not a lot of transparency here.
We're going to I suppose a trade could happen in what is considered this league year, 23-24 at the draft.
Yes.
But by the time you get to July 1st, we're into a new league year.
Yes.
So are these trade lists not flexible that you trade them? You can change.
Yes, I think the answer is yes for the new league year.
Okay,
but it depends on
so
when.
Then what?
And Matt, it might be player to player. Some guys might not put their lists until September 1.
And here's the thing: I'm not asking to see every player's no trade list. I understand there are feelings involved there in the National Hockey League, and the union don't want to subject their players to that. But how about a date where players with no trade protection, limited, have to submit their lists?
Just a known date.
A known date.
Yeah.
Everybody submits the list, and that's it. They're locked in for that league year.
And
what we've talked about this before, so this isn't the first time this has come up. But
if you remember the Calgary trade for Kuzmenko and Lindholm, one of the reasons why it took a little bit longer than when it was initially reported is because Milstein had to sell Kuzmenko on Calgary.
Because he was on
the list.
He was on the list. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Remember Drager saying that, yes, they can go to the player and modify it when, a situation pops up where, hey, we have a deal with this team.
In which case, then whatever Gord is tweeting about is academic and amounts to nothing. Because if you can go to the player and say, hey, we got a deal, you're going to Salt Lake City, and the player goes, well, actually, I'm going to amend my trade list. Then that's that. No,
I think it only goes the one direction of, I know they're on your trade list, but can we trade you there anyway? Rather than, yes, that's what happened with Kuzmenko, right? So, anyway,
right.
Everything Coyote related is the top story, brought to you by Douglas Mattresses.
Oh, right.
Yes. Order yours today at douglas.ca/Canucks Army. And every mattress order comes with a free comfort sleep bundle. That's 2 memory foam pillows with pillow protectors, 1 luxurious cotton sheet set, and a mattress protector that's free with any mattress order. It's Canada's best mattress on Canadian living. Again, order yours today at douglas.ca/Canucks Army.
Thank you for that. Yes.
Watching those Coyotes, it will put you to sleep.
We meandered away from the game and into the future of the Arizona Coyotes franchise, but hey, topical.
Coyotes catch all.
One more thing I wanted to get to here. The Buffalo Sabres have been officially eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
The Vancouver Canucks expansion cousin, of course, back in 1970, and a full-fledged member of Jason Bruff's SAD Club alongside the Canucks Cups.
They're like keystone members, both of them, yes.
Right. Well, they last made the playoffs in 2011. This is a 13-year drought and counting now in a league that has as much parity as any league out there.
Well, and for a long part of that drought, 16, well, not of this particular drought, but for a long part of their history, 16 of 21 teams made the playoffs, a better chance of winning the Stanley Cup.
Right.
And then in this part, I mean, you're still 2/3 or, over 50% of the league for a long part of this drought.
Right.
Was still making the playoffs.
And now half. And now half.
Now legitimately half. Yeah.
They last won a playoff series in 2007. So we're 17 years.
Yeah.
This from Matthew Fairburn. 20 NHL teams have played at least 50 playoff games since the Sabres last played one.
Yeah.
So 2/3 of the league have played 50 playoff games since the Sabres last postseason game. The only other one who hasn't is the expansion Kraken, who have played 14 playoff games.
Still good.
The Sabres haven't found a way to be average in 13 seasons. They couldn't get in even in the COVID expanded 2014 postseason, Blake. They missed that year too.
Their season this year is shocking. They are a NHL 500 club.
And then there's this, and I say this through gritted teeth. The Vegas Golden Knights have won 38 playoff games since they came into the league. If you want to go back and find 38 Buffalo Sabres playoff wins,
How many years?
we take you back to Game 3 of the 1999 Eastern Conference Final
Oh, man.
against the Toronto Maple Leafs, a period of 9,084 days.
So they won 38 from then till now?
If you yes, they won that one, and they won 37 more.
That seems like too much.
9,000 days
I don't believe they
to
won
go.
38 games.
So counting backwards, Game 3 of that 99, and then go backwards to get to your 38 wins. More than 9,000 days ago.
Yeah. It's a sad existence for them.
In one case, it's a cautionary tale about full tank rebuild, right? Because the franchise at one point chose to lose.
Yeah.
And whether you encultured the losing culture, right?
Well, and they had, you would think, franchise altering players in Darlene
And may
Power,
and may still
Eichel.
well. And may still well.
It may still well. We'll see. But as much as they made a lot of bad decisions, you would have thought with two franchise, we think defensemen in Power and Darlene and Eichel.
Well, and Thompson's a pretty good so anyways,
Yeah,
you look at their collection of young talent and you think at some point that's going to break through. And I still believe that. So it didn't happen this year. And they even have a young goaltender.
Oh, they got two.
Well,
Very quickly,
Two with potential.
Devil
you're
sends
counting Levi as
Yeah.
You-
Oh, yeah.
you're-
Coming into the season, people were.
you're
all
sold
over.
on him being an NHL. Okay.
Devil
I'm-
sends Sabres. Who's best next year?
Oh, Devils.
Okay,
Easy.
send Sabres. Who's better
Send
next
Sabres,
year?
Red Wings.
Buffalo.
Really? Yeah.
Really? Huh?
Well, for a couple
Yeah.
reasons. Ottawa's a mess in goal.
Yeah.
And I
Goaltending.
think they,
Corpusalo
and,
ain't
and
it.
I think they may well trade Chikrin.
Yeah, but I think they're going to try and trade Chikrin for somebody that's still going to contribute.
Now, that said, like the other thing is Norris's shoulder, I think, is forever going to be a problem there. And that takes one of their two centermen out of the loop. Although, Pinto played pretty well.
Yeah.
Anyways, but I like the collection of talent better.
You wouldn't
in
bet on
Jersey.
Pinto or Norris?
No, I
Bet
wouldn't
on
bet on
Pinto?
Norris getting back to the player he was, given the shoulder
It
injury.
was just a joke. It was just a gratuitous betting joke.
Oh.
Oh, Pinto. It's okay.
Oh, right.
I got it, Blake.
Thank
Don't
you.
worry.
Thank you, Grady.
Phew.
You're more than fine now.
The betting sponsor on their helmet, too.
I got that one. Playoffs are near, and this year we have an army. Nation Gear, ready to gear you up for Vancouver's playoff run. You can rep your favorite team as they battle in the postseason. Shop the exclusive. We have an army playoff tee and more at nationgear.ca. On today's program, a presentation of Ben Moss Jewelers. And Ben Moss Jewelers, proudly Canadian-owned, operated with a history dating back more than 100 years. There's 5 locations here in BC, including Willowbrook and Langley, Coquitlam Center. Committed to customer satisfaction, check out the large selection of Canadian mined and lab-grown diamonds. And these mined diamonds available with a payment plan to suit your needs. For more information, check out benmoss.com. For the love of jewelry, we'll talk to Patrick Johnston here. And Vanni Sartini, what a great story this is turning into. The Vancouver Whitecaps, 4-1-1, leading the Western Conference, best team in MLS by points percentage. And they got a first place showdown against the LA Galaxy on Saturday.
Who do surrender goals. This could be another fun one at BC play. So we'll see.
Patrick Johnston coming up next. Bro. You ready to do these playoffs, bro?
I don't remember how to do the playoffs, so we're going to do it together.
And we'll kick it off Saturday, April 20th. Doors at 1. Show starts at 2 o'clock. Bro, do your playoffs, a special media event celebrating the life and legacy of our friend Jason Botchford. We'll raise some money for the BC Mental Health Foundation. Our friends from the matinee will play. And some media panels talking about our city's return to the hockey playoffs for the first time in 9 years.
Friends from both sides of the aisle, some live music, and we'll get you set for the playoffs. In a season like this, you never want to miss a single second of what's happening on the ice, and you want to be around your fellow fans, right? Well, Greta Bar YVR at 50 West Cordova, the perfect spot to do so. Hey, if you've got tickets, a great place to pre and post. They've got drink specials every single day. And if you don't have tickets, well, stick around and soak up the atmosphere with all your fellow fans, play all the great video games and air hockey, great air hockey setup as well at Greta Bar YVR. We'll see you there, 50 West Cordova.
This next segment brought to you by the Arnold Palmer Design Whistler Golf Club. Counting down to opening day on May 10th. You can follow all the springtime preparations, including the Bears, they're back at Whistler Golf. And the club reminding organizers of groups of 12 or more, time to get your tee time set. Those prime times are filling up fast for 2024. And just for reaching out to hold that tee time, you, the organizer, plays for free. Whistler Golf Club will take care of the rest. Tell us about your group. whistlergolf.com/groups. Joined now by the Province and Post Media's Canucks beat writer, Mr. Patrick Johnston. How are you?
Good morning. A little tired. Late game. Those late starts.
Yeah.
Post-game things happening.
Things used to always start at 7:30. I'm so happy we moved the norm back to 7.
So
movies, everything used to start at 7:30.
You know, Tocchet called this shot to a degree, Patrick. And look, they were the better team last night. But, you know, he was talking about right after the Vegas game and, you know, big celebration, all these milestones. Okay, like there's no reason why we shouldn't be focused for Arizona. I guess you give them A for effort, but the result wasn't there.
Well, I mean, yeah, with the context, I mean, I don't think you could see it on the post-game video because it's such a tight shot on Rick's head. But when Rick was asked about the shot, basically, or the Pedersen's goal, essentially, but he used it to expound because his main point was, you know, there was a later question I'll come to in a second, but you know, you probably saw his face. There was this look of exasperation, but he went, oh. You know, the point was like, well, yeah, like why the hell won't our power play just move the damn puck and just rip it? Like stop dithering. And you know, there was a moment earlier, I think it was in the second period, where the Canucks had actually like kind of won a puck battle. Like the Coyotes had been very aggressive. There were 3 Coyotes below the goal line. There was one guy standing in front. Connor Garland gets to the side of the net. And instead of just taking it to the net and causing chaos, and you know, there's going to be a rebound, and like that's what you want to do. He shovels it back to Hughes because Hughes is the quarterback, and Hughes just kind of settles the play. And you're like, what are we doing?
It's the downside of having Hughes, isn't it? Is that he's an attractive option no matter where you are, instead of you being selfish and taking care of business yourself.
Yeah, and of all guys, like, you know, Connor Garland's been the guy that's been driving stuff to the net almost nonstop. So that to me there, I mean, there was the contrast in the end with the Pedersen goal was everything. And that was what he said. And, you know, on his further point, you know, he was asked about the Coyotes and he said, you know, I feel terrible. I mean, you know, lets everybody know what everybody over there thinks, which is that they know they're done. But then shifts, you go, but that's irrelevant to the game. You know, we missed the net 29 times, and he's not wrong.
Yeah.
You know, like it's one thing, like shot attempts are important. You're not going to hit the net every time, but he says if you're shooting from the point, keep it low. Like look at the JT Miller goal, you know, and it was all these bits. So they did lots of stuff well, but in the end, they didn't do enough, and they had that real lull in the second period, real lull. You know, it was interesting. I went back and looked because he said something with, you know, the first two power plays. They had a power play at 30 seconds into the game. They actually had the first half, it actually made stuff happen. And then the second half was terrible. And then they had two terrible power plays in the second. One late in the first and then one in the second. And, you know, those were duds. And he sort of referenced those as being the ones that, you know, killed all their momentum. And, you know, whether he meant the second half of the first one and the second one in the first period, or the one in the first period and the one in the second period, either way, like this, they were all over a very tired team who had no business being there, who were utterly unmotivated, like should have been completely uninterested in all this, and they couldn't make anything happen.
I'll bring this out for you. It was Carl Robinson's Arizona Coyotes. Like they had a counterattack and it worked. And like they had no business being in the game at any point in the game. But they made it work. And when do you think the Vancouver Canucks started to draw at even strength on winning the puck battle in the corner and back to the point for a shot? It got a little bit better last night, a tiny bit. But goodness, it's so predictable. And I think teams do video. They know it's just going back to the point.
Yeah. And I think some of that, I mean, in the end, it was an overcoaching emphasis, you know, like that was something that Rick was really hammering on coming out of Christmas. They did really well. They had all those wins, and then they kind of forgot. They never had a ton of variety in their game. Let's be clear. Like, you know, the first half was a lot of bounces and a lot of teams kind of not figuring their game and so on and so on and so on. Where we're at now is exactly what you said. Like it's too often been too one-dimensional. But, you know, like in the end, look at how those goals came. All the goals happened because they were moving their feet, right? Like Connor Garland's goal is because he's moving his feet 2 nights in a row because he's moving his feet. Like that is inevitably, anytime they've done that, they've looked good. Like there is that fear of risk, unfortunately, that seems to have creeped into their game, which is, well, you know, we don't want to, what happens in step 3 if we take step 1 here like this? And the point is that, I mean, I think the point has been the whole season from talking is that, listen, if we play our system right, you can take the risk on step 1 because step 3 will be fine. Even, you know, try to score the goal. And like you said, the safe route has been fallen back on too often, and teams have figured it out. And that said, I mean, they're not the only team in the league that plays this way. Dallas plays this way. You know, like that's a team that's incredibly good at working in front of the net. Dallas, I think, overall is a more talented team, but they're not that much more talented. The Canucks are pretty talented. Like they've made this work. And so I understand why they keep going back to that well. That said, they got to do more.
Can they be everything they hope to be if Connor Garland is their best player on a nightly basis?
No.
Because I like Garland's their best player now.
Miller's right there too, but I hear you.
He's been excellent.
Yeah.
But yeah. Connor Garland leading the charge.
Yeah.
You say
that? Yeah. No, I'm like, listen, it's been a delight watching him play. It's been a great fun season, you know, and it's great that he's finally found his way with JT Miller. I think that line is looking like the line they want it to be. Miller, I think, has kind of found the rhythm of those two wingers. But no, like JT Miller's got 100 whatever points. Like he's got to be the bad guy. Elias Pettersson, I mean, at least we saw him, you know, like I said, he finally ripped the puck. We hadn't seen him do that in so long. Quinn Hughes has been, I think, most nights trying to put the team on his shoulders. That's why he's going to win the Norris Trophy. It's why, you know, I mean, the company he's keeping is, I don't see Cale Makar on those lists. I only see Bobby Orr and Paul Coffey and Ray Bourque, you know, like the list that Hughes finds himself on is a pretty special one. And he's been doing what he needs, but you need those guys. Like at one point I had sort of written this, well, what the hell? Then they tied up. I'm like, well, maybe this is a story about the Stars showing up, and then they lost. So it's, you know, it was kind of a moot point. I mean, it's good that they got goals from their two best players, and Quinn Hughes continues to rack up points and on and on and on. But those were the Arizona Coyotes, and you know they're playing
on the
they're
second of a
they're playing the Edmonton Oilers on Saturday. You may have heard.
If I could nominate 2 players to have unadulterated breakaways in on Connor Ingram, the last 2 players on the list would be Teddy Bluger and Philip Roenick. Yeah, those would be the last 2 players on the list.
Well, and Roenick's still too shy of 50, huh?
Yeah.
He was pretty down on himself.
Now, we can say what we want about all the performance of the skaters, but let's be honest. Thatcher Demko wins that game going away.
Which was, I have 2 follow-ups. Number 1, are you concerned with Canucks goaltending right now, Patrick?
Not really. I mean, I said this on the weekend. Listen, like, okay, yes, you guys are right. Like, Demko plays, it's an experience thing, right? Like, the goal that kind of snuck through that Sulov's never saw, went by his foot. There's a bit of an experience element in that, to know that in this situation, an NHL shooter is probably doing this, so I best be ready. And I talked to Archers about that, and that's, in the end, that is the biggest challenge, is just constantly reminding you how much better these guys are than the guys you've been seeing night in, night out.
Mm-hmm.
So certainly, he could get there, but he's here now.
There's no blame. He's 23.
No, I'm just saying, like, this is what I'm saying. Like,
it's reality.
Listen, this is what he is, and this is what Casey Smith is. Like, there were people yelling at me last Saturday because some of that was about Casey Smith, but in a game where the Canucks just did an atrocious job on the penalty kill. Like in the end, it is a team game. You need your goalie to be best. Yes, if you're going in the playoffs with these 2 as your goalie, you're not feeling great. I mean, you're not. You want your best guy in there, and that's Thatcher Demko. So, for instance, it is interesting that they're practicing today, right? We were thinking a little bit about this after the game. Like, originally they've got practice. They're scheduled to practice today. They're scheduled to practice Friday. Practice and fly to Edmonton Friday. We had sort of assumed they'd probably take at least today off. And then practice Friday and fly. But if you're going to practice today, that leaves open you're going to practice tomorrow. And that certainly opens up the door to Demko playing on Saturday, in terms of just the prep and all the things he needs. And, as Talkett said to us on Tuesday, like, that was meant to be a, quote, 70% practice, while, the next one was going to be an 80% practice. And then, so he needs a full practice where he's doing everything. He's dealing with traffic, on and on and on. So they've added that. I mean, the concern on their part is obvious now. They're like, okay, have we really any time left to rest? Is he ready? Probably. Let's get him in there. We'll see what happens on Saturday, but that certainly feels like the mood now, because they look at that game and they just want to put this all to bed. Like, yes, Edmonton has 5 games in 7 nights or whatever it is to close the season, but they've got, I mean, they have to outpace the Canucks once, right? The Canucks just basically have to keep on keeping on, but they still need probably 2 wins. They get 2 wins, they're fine.
Mm-hmm.
But one of those wins, if they get a win over Edmonton, it's over. Like, it's almost impossible for the Oilers at that point to pull it in, even if they have a game in hand. So
does it matter to you? Like, does it matter
in the end?
Well, in the end, does it matter whether they finish atop the Pacific or not?
I mean, I think you'd like that home ice advantage for both. You want to have all the advantages. Yeah, and there's a pride thing. I mean, like, look at. I mean, we've already talked about. I talked about 03 last week, I think, right? 2003, like, that team completely fell apart down the stretch, and did sweep the Blues. No, they didn't sweep the Blues. They came back to beat the Blues. Then they blew it against the Wild, right? Like that was a team that should have been doing way better and didn't. And, like, that's not what you want for this team. I mean, I sort of said, listen, let's be realistic about this team. They're close, but they're not a Dallas or a Colorado. They could pull something off. Things could go their way. They could get there, but on the sort of paper, they're not quite there. But yeah, you want to finish first. You want to win the division. There's pride in that. There's a thing to pump your chest up about that and say, this is who we are. We really are moving forward. We're not a team that, in the end, we may have stumbled a bit, but we pulled ourselves together in the end. There's absolutely a narrative reason for all kinds of reasons, both on our side and on their side, to win the division, to beat the Oilers, to just.
But it's mostly just pride and wanting to cap the season well.
Yeah.
I don't. There's not an easier path in the first round because of it.
Not really. No, I mean, you're playing Nashville and having some ugly travel, but you're still playing Nashville.
Yeah.
I think there is an advantage in that. Or somehow you end up. I mean, there is still a small minute chance that that it's Vegas or LA if you're finishing first, but realistically, that's a different opponent. I think that's the reason more than anything. That's the other reason. There's pride, and then there's the opponent. I think you want to play Nashville. Like
I'm with you, I have flip flopped on this issue several times, but including earlier this week where I said just take care of your own game and let's not concern ourselves with who we play. But you're 3-0 against Nashville this year. And needless to say, Nashville has changed somewhat since you last played them because they had the 18-game point streak. But it's clear that LA and that 1-3-1 is not your jam. And it's also clear that the defending Stanley Cup champions have had the better of you, not this year, but in the entirety of the franchise history. And they may well be dropping one of the best two-way wingers in the game into their playoff roster on top of the guy they added at the trade deadline and Thomas Hertl and Noah Hannafin. I add all that up and I want Nashville.
Nashville's also got one ROW in the last 7 games. Like they're
starting to struggle
after the streak.
It's almost like they expend everything that they had, making sure they solidified coming from below the bar and making sure they solidified a playoff position.
It's almost like Roman Josie's having a great year and UC Saros is having a great year, and that's it. Like obviously having the goalie is a big deal going into the playoffs. But one of the other things I wrote last week is that team in the last 10 finals, so going back to 2015 or 2014, of the 20 finalists in that pool, only 3 of those teams have been in the top 5 in goals against at the end of the regular season, right? So a team like Nashville that's so focused on defense inherently is not a threat in the playoffs because you got to be able to score, and that is the Canucks' advantage. And I think it might have been Adam Binion, but Nashville's been terrible at defending the slot, and you know who's actually been really good at attacking the slot? Well, we were just talking about them, the guys that fire the puck from the point. Your Vancouver Canucks, they've been very good at creating chances in front. One way or another. Mostly it's been through sort of work from the outside and creating
rebounds,
whatever. Yeah. But they've been very good at it. Listen, that's just the reality, and they've scored a lot of goals because of it. And the Canucks have been one of the better defensive teams in the league this year.
I think it's a dangerous game, picking opponents, but
no, we're not picking opponents. I'm getting really sick of this sentence, this phrase, this whole picking opponents. No. Nobody's picking opponents. Nope. The NHL doesn't have that format.
Don't you have that power?
The Hockey League has that format. The National Hockey League does not have a format where the higher seed gets to pick the playoff opponent.
I thought, Matt, you had that power.
What we do have is the ability as hockey fans and media to look at the potential playoff opponents and have an honest conversation about who we think this team can beat, who we think this team can't beat, and whatever is in the middle.
I think you can twist yourself in a knot. Is my point. Like the LA Kings,
twist yourself, and I already have played. There was the time when I wanted the Kings because I looked at it and I went, they don't scare me offensively, and I don't believe in their goaltending. Now, because of this heinous trap that they play, and it is fucking heinous. I mean, it just destroys the entertainment value of the game. It's got the Canucks number. We have to say that.
Yeah, but I also have to think.
Now I look at Nashville, I go, they really don't scare me offensively. Their goaltender is capable, no doubt. He's got the credentials and the resume. But as we often say in the Stanley Cup playoffs, Aiden Hill, Sergei Bobrovsky last year, who had those two taking their team to the finals. It's not about the credential goalie. It's about the hot goalie.
But are the LA Kings capable of winning 7 of 10 games and 7 of 10, 11 games in a season versus the Canucks? I don't see it.
Well, no, but are they capable of winning 4 out of 7? No, but the evidence would suggest.
But coloring the opinion of I don't want to face is the
you want to ask the regular season? So I
colors the opinion.
Yes. I would say yes, they are capable. Patrick is 1,000,000% right that with very few exceptions in the history of the Stanley Cup playoffs, defense and goaltending only gets you so far.
Yeah.
You typically needs to have offensive firepower once you get down to the brass tacks of conference finals and Stanley Cup finals.
We're not talking that, though.
There's a couple of them. New Jersey stands out. There's a couple of them that did it with teams that weren't exactly offensive juggernauts. So that limits LA's ability, I think, and Nashville's for that matter, to win a cup or even get to a cup. But it doesn't limit their ability to win in the first round.
Yeah. And, LA's X factor being Anse Kopitar still being this incredible player and some really interesting young guys. I mean, they're a team that will, I think, be dangerous in the first round. But as you said, the sustainability of it all. I mean, the goalie thing can be a bit overcooked because at the end of the day, it's about how you play as a unit and to play defensively. You can't be a disaster defensively, but you also need your goalie to be on. And yeah, I think you're right to be skeptical that Cam Talbot's going to be that guy. But listen, of the opponents the Canucks could play, the best matchup remains Nashville just because they've beaten them 4 times this year. That wasn't an accident. I
thought it was 3
or 3. Sorry, they swept them.
Mm-hmm.
The point being is they swept them, and they didn't have a lot of trouble in any of those games.
No, they didn't.
That's the thing.
Do we throw a parade if the Blues catch the Golden Knights? Like, do we just down with the LTIR bandits? And Vegas does not look very good right now. Like, not at all. If you lose to the McDavid-less Oilers in that fashion, never in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this team's capable of losing 3 of the next 4 games.
Yeah.
Be spectacular. Throw everybody into upheaval.
Yeah. I'm not holding my breath.
I am holding my breath. I don't have to hold it very long, though. It's only 4 games. So.
It's just a week.
Yeah.
I'm not holding my breath. Patrick, marvelous discussion. Thank you
Always.
for the time. Thank you for indulging my rant.
It was great. Look forward to next week.
He never thanks me for indulging him. My God.
No, you got to butter him up.
You get paid handsomely for indulging.
See ya.
That's too
now.
Take care, guys.
Hey, everybody. If you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now. Hey, you. No, not you. You. Are you an owner operator? You have a fleet of trucks or cars? Well, CalPro Plus might be the dedicated tire program just for you.
Free program includes exclusive deals and savings, price match guarantee, flexible financing, and preferred pricing on everything you drive.
Also, you get a dedicated member support line. That means that you can get questions answered. Also, they'll source and recommend the right tire for you, your application, and your budget.
Cal Tire's network of 260 plus stores are here to help so you can focus on the road ahead. Sign up for free at calproplus.com. Northlands Golf Course. Download the free app and book tee times with a touch of your thumb. And while you're on course, open the app for hole-by-hole GPS and track your score. 6 to 90-day reservations. Jump the queue. Lock in your date for $10 per player booking fee. Limited daily availability. Check it all out. golfnorthlands.com. We are joined now by the head coach of the 4-1-1 Vancouver Whitecaps FC, first place in MLS West, first place in MLS by points percentage, and they take on LA Galaxy in a first place showdown Saturday at BC Place. Mr. Vanni Sartini, how does all of that sound, my friend? 6 games into the season, huh? That's quite an introduction. Not sure we've ever used first place that often with the Whitecaps.
Yeah, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it sounds it sounds beautiful, to be honest. So.
If that phrase was a woman, it would be your wife, right?
Probably yes.
Yeah. So, Vanni, let me ask you this question: 4-1-1. How close to optimal has this team played through 6 games? Like, how much better can you play from what you've shown on the pitch through 6 matches?
I don't think we can play much better on the best version of the period of 10-15 minutes that we had in the game, because we had like some moment of the game, like the first 25-30 minutes in Dallas, the first half against Portland. I would say defensively the entire game in San Jose, that it was really good. What we can do, we can try to sustain this quality for a longer period of time. So we actually did very well against Toronto last week because we didn't have a pause. Basically, but even when we were playing very well, we had a couple of silly mistakes that we almost put Toronto back in the game. So I think it's hard to play better than how we're playing when we're playing really well, but we can play that level of the game for a longer period of time in the game.
So let me ask you this, because you're the art of coaching, a student of coaching. When your team plays that well for that period of time, does it make coaching difficult? Does it make training difficult? Do you have their attention when so much of it is plaudits and laudations about the way they played?
Like, well, yes and no. It makes easy in the sense that the good thing is that everyone now, I have a lot of players that they have been with me for 3 years now, and things are going well. So everyone has an extreme buy-in on what we're doing. So they actually correct each other sometimes. But that's the easy part. The hard part is what you said. It's like to try to find, try not to be repetitive most of the time when you do things, and trying to find a way to, okay, it's not working on doing things better, but doing that things in a longer period. So it's a kind of, I would say, different way of coaching for sure.
Defensively, it looks pretty similar from last year to this year. Offensively, though, have you emphasized different things? Just the stats look different. You guys were expected goals leaders, of course, last year. Here, you're just clinical. When you get your chances, you score them, it seems. Is that by design? Tell us about how things have evolved offensively.
So we change a little bit the way we play offensively, in the sense that we became a little bit more kind of fluid. It's like, we're not playing the same time, the same way every game, but according to the opposition, we make some tweaks in the starting position of the player when we have the ball, and we try to be more, I would say, even unpredictable from game to game, and try to really exploit our weapon offensively. The new players that we have, they give us different options, so we can use those different options sometimes from game to game. So that's the big difference, I would say. That's the reason why we create different way of goal chances than we were doing last year. The outscoring the goal, the expected goals, while last year we were doing the opposite. Like, we had a lot of expected goals, but we didn't score. I think it's more a matter of quality. It's a matter of it's not by design. It's just I would say we have to say kudos to the player, because I don't know, maybe last year in the first game of the year, that chance that Brian had at the beginning against Toronto, he would have been like saved by the goalkeeper, because the shot, he wouldn't been that calm and collected to go there. And we scored I don't know, with Shopfi from outside the box in the second game of the season. I think before scoring a goal from outside the box last year, it took like a lot of games. So that's it's
who is that number 8, by the way? Who is that guy? Is that a new player for you, number 8?
No, I think Alessandro always did a very good job. That's the reason why he played most of the games in the last 2 years. So that's the thing is that he adapted himself perfectly on defending wide when he has been called to defend wide. Like, he played wingback defensively for, I think, 4 games out of 6, and he did extremely well. And then this new way of attacking that we are playing with more high and wide players. So I'm trying to say everything instead of the word wingers that you
I know you. He doesn't like wingers, folks.
Yeah, well, so we're playing basically with wingers. So
Wide players, yes. Okay.
yeah, wide players. So what happened is that there's more space for you for him and Pedro and Sebastian and whoever's going to play in that position to drift a little bit on the side and not only space in front of him. So for a player that is not that, I would say, that has this burst of acceleration like it can be Ali, for example, that he was perfect in the 8th position of last year. This year we need maybe players that are more technically educated, that can have more space to play the ball, and that helped, I think, Alessandro to have this fantastic start at the end.
Well, speaking of your attack, Vanni, I wanted to ask about Fafa Picault, who leads your team in goals, leads your team in assists, is second to Ryan Gauld in shots. When, first of all, how invaluable has he been? And secondly, when you talk about some of the offensive changes you've made, is it because of him and the skill set that he brings to your midfield?
Yeah. So he did very well, guys. 3 goals and 2 assists, I think, so far. So it's been really good, and it's also as everything has been a process. The first games he wasn't starting because he still didn't. I would say he wasn't catching up with what we were trying to do tactically, and we saw him at the beginning only as a player that could come in and be a weapon when the game was starting, when game is a little bit more chaotic in the end. But then showed us that he understood perfectly his role defensively and offensively. And because of a skill set, I would say it's a classic winger when he attack. He likes to stay wide and go 1v1 and trying to beat his guy on the sideline. So that's one of the reasons why we devised this kind of different system when we had the ball, and the other player, I would say players plural, because Ali has been very good on the other side, but also when in this way it allowed us to keep the 2 players centrally, like in a vertical way instead of or horizontal way, depends on the game, and they can combine. And because we saw last year that Brian and Ryan up top, they can do fireworks when they are together.
People are used to LAFC lately being the better of the LA teams. Galaxy the better of the LA teams now. What do you have to contend with here? Ricky Pooch is yet to be a household name up here because the team's never been very good with him, but they're going to know his name after this weekend, probably, unless you guys have a way to stifle him.
Well, I think that the Galaxy are probably the team that is playing the better soccer when they have the ball now in MLS, and they are the team that they improved the most from last year in terms of new signing. So they signed these new wingers, Pansil and Peck. They spent a shitload of money, a lot of money. Sorry for the word.
No, you're allowed to. It's okay.
So that's they spent a lot of money, but they spent money well because, these 2 players, these 2 wingers, what allow, I would say, with their movement being a threat, to free a little even more space for Ricky Pug, that is becoming probably one of the best playmakers in the league. So we need to be, I would say, the defensive organization on Saturday is going to be the key, because the more we limit them, the more we can have the ball and be aggressive. Because I think that they're really good offensively, but they already considered 11 goals defensively, so it's almost 2 goals per game. So I would say that's the chance to be dangerous when we have the ball. But the only way to do it is if we are extremely good when we don't have the ball. That's the key, I think, for the game of this Saturday.
Well, we'll be watching with interest, Vanni, and wish you the best of luck. Thank you for the time here, sir, and keep on keeping on.
Yeah, we'll try for sure. Thank you.
Hey, everybody, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.